Well, I also wanted to make my buddy a video about my pistol. He seemed pretty interested in that after I emailed him my last video about my rifle. And he replied right back to me and he said, hey, that was neat. He said, what about that revolver you got? So I said, all right, I'll make you one up for that too. We got the Ruger Old Army, a single action type revolver, made by Sturm Ruger and Company. This one it's had some use. It's probably about 40 or so years old. My grandpa used this one in a competition, in his black powder competition. So it's been around a while. Holsters. The thing about holsters, the old leather type like this, do not store your pistol in the holster for long periods of time. The leather will hold moisture. A holster's period will retain moisture, and the stuff that they use to dye the leather, the chemicals to treat the leather, and this is also true with nylon, will actually rust up a pistol. I've seen a few guns ruined that way. The newer plastic ones aren't so bad, but they do still retain the moisture, especially in the more humid climates. So if you have to store it in your holster for long periods of time, take it out about every 4 or 6 weeks and give it a nice wipe down with oil. So I'm going to go through some basics with this here revolver. Two types of projectiles can be fired out of this. What's known as a cornicle bullet, and of course, what I'm going to be using today, a round ball. If I can get it out of here. There we go. Now, like this, these are little powder bags, or people can keep their mind out of their gutter. Ball bags, which is what I use it for. So there's that. Most pistols use number 11 or number 10 caps. They seat relatively hard. You need a capper. It's about that long. Reminds me of a piece of angle iron. It's got a little slide in it and allows you to press the caps on tight. You would normally you cap the pistol after you charge it. I'm going to put a charge in this. I have fired this one literally my entire life. It was the first handgun I ever shot. Shot it when I was 10 years old. And I've loaded this pistol a lot. My grandfather loaded it a lot. In fact, there's actually now there's scorch marks in here from the powder repeated use at about the same load, because like I say, used for competition, and competition loads are 25 grains. This can handle up to 30 grains. The nice thing about a pistol is you really can't overload it, but I highly recommend using a measure. Like I say, I've done this a lot. This is a relatively used pistol, and I can tell about how much powder I'm loading. The lowest charge you can put in this is 20 grains. Otherwise, you run risk of getting your ball stuck in the barrel, and there will bitch to get out. So I'm going to put my powder in this here chamber. And the next one. And the next one. Again, I'm using triple F, or what's known as triple FG now if you use the Pyrodex or Jim Shockey's Gold, which is what I'm using here. And get all my cylinders, or my chambers and my cylinder loaded. Okay, load up the powder. Last one. Now, the old powder measures that they used during the Civil War had a little slide on it. Allowed the powder to dump down to a predetermined amount, and you pulled the little slide out, and it dumped into the chamber, and it loaded a lot faster. But I still cannot imagine fighting Indians or Rebs or Union guys or anybody with one of these pistols. Oops. So now, normally, I've seen people who aren't too familiar with black powder pistols, just set their ball direct on the powder, which is fine if you put grease over top of the ball. The grease is to prevent embers from possibly slipping by the ball and touching off one of the adjacent cylinders. And that's what's known as chain fire. And I've only experienced this once in my life, and I never wanted to experience it again. It was with a different weapon. I fired 3 chambers simultaneously. Fired the one that was in line with the barrel and the 2 next to it, and it wasn't fun. So what I normally do is I grease mine. They do have these little, what they call wonder wads. They're little lube felt pads that match your chamber diameter. And you set those directly on top of the powder, and then you shoot your ball or clinical bullet over top of that. This is a replica of a 1858 Remington. The Remington was a little bit beefier. Well, it's not really a replica, it's based off of. Actually, a little bit beefier. In fact, the frame on this is exactly the same as that of the Ruger Red Hawk, which shoots 44 magnums. This is 44 ball. All right, now make sure there's a little screw right here. Make sure that is fully tightened. Otherwise, when you go to seat your ball, this piece will then push up, and a lot of times we'll put a lot of undue pressure on that pin and snap it, and they're very, very expensive. Seat it. There should be a really, really thin ring, I don't know if you can see that, of lead. That means you got a good gas seal. You're using the proper ball. And you just repeat your process until you get all your chambers loaded. Dropped it. All right, now I'm going to put my grease on the over each of the chambers. Again, this is Wonder Lube. You can use what they used back in the Civil War, and that is actually animal fat or lard. They do not recommend using anything that's petroleum based. I don't know why. I guess they say it has a tendency to foul up the gun, so I never tried it. This is actually quite the messy way to do it. The Wonder Wads are faster and there's less mess. So make sure you have a rag standing by so you can wipe off. Set this down. I'm going to wipe off my fingers, and I'll be back in a split second. All right, now this is the point where you normally cap it. Like I say, it takes number 10 caps. I took the liberty of pre-capping this one, so it is ready to fire. One note is these caps will seat very, very hard, and this is so that they don't come off. If you try to use number 11 caps, they are usable, but you have to crimp them a little bit. And I don't recommend doing that, so a lot of times they can fall off, and it won't go off when you need it, or they'll jam up the gun, and it's a pain in the neck. Sometimes these number 10s will not split, and you'll actually have to pry them out with a pocket knife or something, but that's not really that good. So I'm going to touch this off, and relay fire. We're in. I got all my discharge primers off there so they don't jam up my gun. And put my, even though it's empty, I like to put it in the provided safety notches on the cylinder. And that's all for the Captain Ball revolver. Hope you enjoyed it.